What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Facts and Stats. This is now episode 91. You have here your host, Everett Jr. or Ev. I have a guest here with me. Allow him to introduce himself. We're going to go ahead and get started.
How you guys doing? I'm excited to be on episode 91. My name is Process Protector, the number one Philly fan on Twitter and Facts and Stats and everything else Ev does. And I'm excited to talk Philly sports with him today.
Appreciate you coming on, bro. Again, you are the biggest Sixers fan that I know. Definitely the biggest Sixers or Philly sports period fan in Facts and Stats. So obviously, it's a great time to have you on. Today, I am starting a new segment for Facts and Stats, and you are actually the first person. I'm just calling it "What's Next." What that means is we're going to go over. I'm going to go over every single team in the NBA this offseason leading up into the season, and discuss with hopefully a fan mate of that respective team, or if not, if I gotta do it by myself, I will. As far as like what should be next for this team, how have they been over the last couple of seasons, and how are their future looking going forward? With that being said, we're obviously going to be talking about Joel Embiid, James Harden, Maxey, Doc Rivers, everything, the whole nine. But before we get into that, man, talk to the people. Tell them how you became a fan of the 76ers and just Philly sports.
All right. So my dad wasn't born in America. He was born in Italy. But obviously he met my mom. They lived here. And growing up, he just taught me to be a fan of all four major sports teams in Philly. Everything we do has to be Phillies, Eagles, Sixers, or Flyers. You can't be a fan of nobody else. You can't be a fan of other teams. You can't be a fan of two teams. You can't. And no matter what, if they suck, if they're good, if you don't like somebody on the team, if you don't like the way they're going, you can't jump off the bandwagon. And that's pretty much the whole Northeast, you know. Everybody's a fan. We all have four sports pretty much in Philly, New York, and Boston. And that's just the way we're brought up. And talking to people on Twitter, you know, they're like a fan of somebody who, you know, out of nowhere, they like the player, so they stuck to that team. They like, you know, whatever. So, but around here growing up, you got to be a fan of the four major sports, and you can't hop off, and you can't just be a fan of them when they're good. And since I've been alive, the Sixers, you know, I was 5 years old, 6 years old when they were in the championship last with Allen Iverson, and the city was amazing with him, and everybody loved him. And he was the best thing ever that happened to Philadelphia, especially the Sixers. And now you look at it and people are like, oh, you know, you guys go through all this nonsense with the process and you guys didn't benefit anything from it. You guys still can't get out the second round. We got us, and people are right. We have got, I mean, we got to the second round with Iguodala and Dallenberg and Elton Brand and Evan Turner and Thaddeus Young. And we still haven't gotten out the second round. But I think it's going to change, but we could talk. We'll see what happens. I'll see the questions you ask me.
You think it's going to change? What do you think? What's going to change? Y'all get out the second round?
Yeah, I think so.
You don't gotta go. You don't gotta go all the way into it. We're gonna get there. But just,
Right.
what were you about to say? This whole thing. What?
No, I think that what our get like Doc Rivers being gone, Nick Nurse. I think he's a good hire. I think that he's going to push us in the right direction. And I know that it looks grim and it doesn't look good for Sixers fans and people, NBA fans. They're like, all right, it's over. But we still have, in my opinion, the best player in the league, and everyone else thinks at least one of the best players in the league, reigning MVP. So as long as he's on the team, as long as he's on board, we have a chance to become champions every year.
Okay. That's some bold statements. So since you starting in that direction, I'm gonna just go ahead and follow. I'm gonna follow or feed off your energy, and just go with the flow that you're going with. So with that being said, you are obviously the first person of my What's Next segment, and we'll go ahead and start off right there, bro. You guys went 7 with Boston. You had the opportunity to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals to face my team, but that's another story. It doesn't really matter. And you had a game 6 in your pocket at home. My question to you before we get into everything that took place over the years and last years, as of right now, August 7th, what is next for the Philadelphia 76ers?
So I don't know if they're gonna trade Harden. I know he wants. All the reports are saying he wants out. He wants to go here. He wants to go there. He wants to go to the Clippers. The most recent report said that the Clippers don't really want to give up a lot, and they don't really know if the fit is going to be right. So there's a lot of suitors, I think, out there for Harden, but it has to be a perfect team. That's the only problem. And honestly, I think the Sixers are a very good fit for James Harden. And I think him and Embiid were dominant. I mean, they were one of the best duos, if not the best duo in the league. Their pick and roll was ridiculous. So what's next for them is they got to figure out what is going to happen. Like right now, it looks bad. Like if you don't go into the season with Harden and you get back pennies for him, then I might change my tune a little bit about us getting out the second round and us going further. But my perspective is if we get something good for him and we can flip that into another piece, Zach LaVine, somebody like that. And the reason I think that we are going to be good is because I think that Maxey is going to take even a bigger leap than he's been taking every year. So if he can turn into that facilitator, become a better playmaker, have the ball in his hands more, I think we're going to have a chance to be good. And you saw it a little bit in the Boston series. Some games, game five was like, I thought we were going to the Eastern Conference Finals. We were going to play y'all because we dominated, and we dominated in Boston. And Maxey had the ball in his hands a lot, and it was a little two-man game between him and Embiid, and everything was opening up for everybody. Harden had a good game. Embiid that was probably his best game of the series. Maxey was great. Everything opened up. The floor was that we were running the floor. The spacing was perfect. So what's next is he's going to have to take another leap. And I'm hoping that we keep Harden. But with his history about like leaving teams and the way he kind of goes about it, I'm hoping it doesn't bleed into the regular season. Then he kind of puts on the whole charade about like, yeah, he's here, he's going to play, but he's only given his, half of what he can really give you. And he proved to give you a lot last year. I mean, his stats were great. He had a double digit assists. He was dominant playmaker. And then he won us 2 games in that Boston series. Game 1 with no Embiid, he was amazing. He went off and, he had 2 40-point games in that series. And I thought that showed a lot out of him. So I think that, Nick Nurse can bring out even more of this team. I don't know if Harden's going to buy into his defense and his system and the way he wants to play and how hard he wants to play. But Harden seems like he wants to be the guy, which I don't get why he wants to go to the Clippers, because he's not even going to be the third. I mean, he's not even going to be the second guy. He's not even like Paul George needs the ball. Kawhi needs the ball. He's going to be more of a facilitator. And I don't even know how it's going to work with him and Russ, Kawhi, and Paul on the same court. To me, it doesn't make sense. To me, this is a perfect fit for Harden. He can maybe take more of I think he should have a bigger role, and Embiid should step back a little bit on the scoring end of it. And Embiid should focus more on becoming a better playmaker, he's already a great defender, and defensively he was our anchor last year, but he, be sure to be even better on the defensive side of the ball. And that's what my hope is. But if we lose him and we don't get anything good in return, we got problems.
Okay. I mean, you okay. I mean, well said. I mean, yeah, it's reported that he only opted in to that with you guys to facilitate a trade or work a trade to the Clippers. So, say you guys ultimately make a trade with the Clippers head on. We don't know. Probably could be a multi-team deal. We don't know if it does happen. But if it's just the Clippers, what would you like back from LA that make you like, okay, we can move forward and we can still do some things?
What would I like is Paul George, but that's unrealistic. Paul George is not going to be in the deal. They don't even want to give Man up.
Right.
So if they're not willing to give up Man, I don't know what the hell. Like, we're going to get what? Norman Powell, Robert Covington, a bunch of role players. I mean, ideal would be getting Man and Powell and Covington and maybe a couple picks. That was like another thing.
Would that have you be satisfied though, Man, Covington, and Powell and a couple picks?
I'd be satisfied if that's what you got, and that was literally the only other deal out there. That was the last straw. That was that's what the only shot you have, because I think Man is a good player, and I think a backcourt with Man and Maxey defensively, it's bad. That's not going to be great. But it's so quick and it's so athletic. And it gives a dynamic of you have a half court game with Embiid, and you also have a way to run the floor with Man and Maxey. Because the only, as good as a duo was with Embiid and Harden, they are really ball dominant, and they're kind of like offensive stoppers because they get the ball. Embiid especially, he gets the ball, he stands there, he looks at his options, and he goes to work. He either hits his pull-up jump shot, he'll post up, he'll score, but it takes a lot of time. And he'll wait for the double team to come, and he's gotten better at getting out of there. But, it takes a lot of time. And Maxey, he's so fast and he's so quick. And when he runs the floor, he's one of the best in the league at it because he's so quick and he gets to the rack, even for being as small as he is. But when he's standing there doing nothing, it kind of not hurts, but it doesn't really help his game. He's become a great three-point shooter. He's shot 42, I think, percent last year, was top 5 in the NBA. So that's a good trait because even in the half-court set, if he's open, he's going to make it. But having him and Harden, even Harden dribbling, and then getting to his spot and making the play, or dribbling and hit step back three, dribbling, get to the rack. And he's not as explosive and he's not as quick as he once was. So that whole, dribbling, making his decision, taking a while in the shot clock, and then getting to the hoop, he got blocked a lot this year. And you didn't see that back then with Harden. He had a lot of games where he didn't, and he had a lot of step backs, and he made them. His mid-range game, when it's on point, is that's when he's great. When he hits his mid-range, he gets all 3 levels of his scoring going, and he's unstoppable. But having both of them on the court, and then Harden, when he doesn't have the ball in his hands, he's a ball watcher. He stands there. So having Man and having Harden, Maxey and maybe Powell and maybe, Tobias, as crappy as people say he's been and whatever, it's mostly because of the contract, because realistically he's been a solid role guy, but he gets paid to be more than that. With that, there'll be more movement on offense. And Embiid maybe, and how I always joke around and I mess around with Jokic, and we have a little thing going between Denver fans. They built a team around him that was perfect for his skill set, which Embiid doesn't have close to that skill set of becoming of that playmaking aspect of the game like Jokic. But if you can teach him to become better, he doesn't need to be Jokic's level, but he needs to be better at it. And you have guys like Man and Maxey and Tobias and guys that are running around and getting open. Embiid has shown that he can pass well. He's okay at it. But if you have to force him to do that and force him to become a playmaker, that's what's going to have to happen, because those guys aren't the playmaker Harden is. So you're going to have to devise an entirely new offense around Embiid to get those guys the ball. And then when Embiid's off the court and you have B-Ball Paul, who we signed to a 3-year deal, it's just run and gun. It's go time with Man and Maxey and Paul. And that's the way you're going to have to do it. Do I think it's going to be enough? No, because this is a superstar league, and superstars are why you go far in the playoffs. And Embiid is a superstar, and Harden is a star, and Maxey's a budding star. But you need another guy like a Harden to be like, you look at the playoffs. Yes, Jokic, he didn't have another star, but in the playoff, Jamal Murray turned into that guy. He turned into a budding star. He looked fantastic. Then you had MPJ turned into a great role player, like a high-end, really good player. Like, he was playing great ball. So you need that, and we wouldn't have that with Man and Powell and whatever. So I don't think it's enough, but you ask if I'd be happy, and Philly fans aren't going to want to hear this, and you know how much I love Embiid, but if you're trading Harden and you're getting Man in return, you're going to have to look at the future and build around those two guys without Embiid in it. And it sucks to say, but if you're going to get fleeced on this deal with Harden and you're not going to get a guy in return that is going to make you better, then you're going to have to be like, okay, let's cut our losses, get Man in here, build around Man, build around Maxey. I don't think Paul is a building block, but he's okay. And then if you don't have enough next year or 2 years from now, that's when you're going to have to look to move Embiid. His value is probably not going to be as high. But this, I think that the Sixers plan, to be honest, and this is it's sad because Embiid is a ticking time bomb with his injuries, and with in his age, I mean, he's only 30, but he's a big man. He's already has injury problems. He had foot problems and knee problems. But this year's class sucks. Next year's class, free agent I'm talking about, is pretty good. And then you're going to be off of Tobias Harris's contract. So you're going to have plenty, and you're going to move Harden. So you're going to have plenty of money in next year's free agent class. Embiid's going to be 31. Maxi's going to be in his prime. Hopefully, if you do the trade with what's his name, with Man, he'll be in his prime. You're going to have to pay those guys, so you're not going to have as much money because with the way money's going around, look at that bum in Boston. Tyrese Maxey's going to get a bunch of money too. Whether Philly fans thinks it's worth it or not, Maxey's going to get a $200-something million contract. And that's just the way the NBA is. So you're going to end up moving Tobias or not re-signing him. He's going to be gone, giving money to Maxey. But then you'll have another max slot for hopefully a free agent. So what I'm saying is we might have to punt next year, which sucks because you don't have a lot of years to punt with the reigning MVP coming off his best year. In the past 3 years, he's gotten better and better and better. I don't know how much longer that's going to last with the center, the way he plays, the way he plays a little. And I hate to say this because you want your guys to give effort, but he's flying all over the place. He's always on the ground. He's always hitting the ground. He's always flying up in the air for blocks. And the way he plays and he's flailing his arms. He's hitting, that 280 pounds hitting the ground every single time down the court is a big deal. So you can't really punt seasons, but if Harden's going to put you in this situation, you're kind of in trouble.
So you said you would trade Harden, and I heard everything you said. You said you would trade Harden, but if you're not getting somebody that's better than him, trade Embiid. But then you also referenced that if you trade Harden, you will want a guy like Zach LaVine. Is he better than Harden to you?
No, but he's a piece that, and the contract sucks because he's getting a lot of money, but he's in his prime. He's 27, 28 years old. He's a guy that I think is an impact player, and he's not a star, whatever. He's a borderline all-star player. I think he's been an all-star once or twice. He he scored like 26 points a game. He was at one point he had 20. I think he averaged 27. And listen, he did it on bad teams where he was the guy with and DeMar, but he fits because he's an athletic wing. He can score. He can shoot. The only way that LaVine works is if Maxey turns into what I'm asking for him. He's got to turn into that playmaking guard that can help everybody get better. Because if that's the case and Maxey turns into what I hope he can, he's going to be your second guy. LaVine's going to be your third guy. And then you have Embiid. And LaVine is an athletic guy. He can run the floor. He's not a great defender. But, and the only way you can get this deal done is if you flip Harden to the Clippers, and then somehow the Clippers will give you Man, and then you flip Man into LaVine. Because the Bulls aren't taking Harden. The Bulls have to blow it up, I don't know why they would want James Harden. It'd be a dumb deal for them. So the only way to do it is facilitate some kind of trade. I saw some crazy proposal between like 4 teams. You guys were in it.
Yeah,
the Blazers. Yeah, it was ridiculous. But that stuff's ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like we somehow got Hero and LaVine, and we traded Harris and Harden. But that's a pipe dream. Those trades don't really happen in the NBA. So, I mean, I do think everything is going to fall once Dame gets traded. Because all these teams are seeing what's going to happen. They don't want to make a move before that happens. So once the big piece gets traded, all the dominoes will fall down and something's going to happen. I don't want to go into this in this season, and the season's around the corner. I mean, October's a couple months away. So we're going to go into this season, and we got problems. I mean, the Sixers got problems if they don't move Harden, and I don't want him holding out. I mean, we went into last offseason, with the guy 2 off seasons that didn't want to be here, and Harden Embiid and Maxey had to carry the load until Harden got here. So I don't want to do this again and again and again. It's a pain, and I hate Harden for wanting to leave, but it is what it is.
2 things, and I'm hearing everything that you're saying. You said you're hoping that Maxey can be turned into a playmaker and also be able to help guys around him get better. And that season where he started, where they traded, you guys traded Ben Simmons and all that. That season when he was the main guard. Actually, I think it was after. It was after. I can't remember how it went. But either way, Maxey was the point guard, whatever, the lead guard, and it was Embiid, and they was winning games. I think they even won 50 games that year or something like that, or whatever it was. Did he show you in that season that he can be a lead guard or playmaking type of guard?
I think that he showed spurts of that. I think that he showed that he's able to, you know, do it, but he doesn't do it to the effectiveness that I think we need him to. He was able to do it off of sheer talent at Maxi, and same with Embiid. We were winning games that 2 years ago when Simmons held out.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And yeah, 2 years ago, Simmons held out. We ended up winning 50 games. Harden came along after All-Star break when we got him, and he helped. We were good. But before then, all the way leading up until All-Star break and the trade deadline, it was Maxey and Embiid. Tobias, he sprinkled in some good games in there, and he helped us too. But that he showed me something, but he needed to show me. I told you that Game 5 in Boston, him and Embiid, they were doing the two-man game, and it was just working to perfection, like dribble handoffs with Embiid, and Maxey was hitting the three, pick and roll with Embiid and Maxey rather than Harden. And it's weird because it worked, and then you didn't see it for the rest of the series. And, maybe it was okay. We were blowing them out in Game 5, and it was something that Doc sprinkled in there, and it worked because we were already winning, and it was just whatever the game was. But it was something that was effective, and it's something that obviously can be effective because Maxey can shoot. So a pick and roll between him and Embiid, it can work, and he's so quick that as soon as you get that pick, he can go right around him, and he's right at the hoop. And you saw Harden couldn't do that. Harden's pick and roll was so effective because he's such a great passer, and he had the ability to drive and kick. And Maxey could get that pick and go right to the hoop, or hit that little mid-range shot, or dish it to Embiid, and it was working. So he's going to have to turn into that. I saw it a little bit. He's not a traditional point guard. He didn't play point guard at Kentucky. He's more of an off-ball shooting guard, and he was great next to Harden. But even when games Harden were out, Maxey performed. And him and Embiid, like, he's going to have to step up, and he's going to have to take that role. And Embiid's going to have to become a better playmaker too for us to become better. Because now you don't have that elite playmaker in Harden. So Embiid's going to have to become a better playmaker. Maxey's going to have to be the lead guard. He's going to have to be a better playmaker. And he's going to hopefully,
No,
depending on the team. It depends what the team is like,
No, I get you. Real quick, you said, circle back to the beginning of this video, and again, everybody that's watching or may watch, make sure you all like and subscribe to the Fact and Stats podcast on YouTube. Appreciate the support. You said when you have Jordan B, he is the best player in the league to you, and he always puts you in position to win multiple series. He never been out to the second round. He lost to Boston in the playoffs on multiple occasions. Most recently, this last postseason, where he had 15 points in Game 7 in the fourth quarter, in the whole entire game. You want to talk about this series in general before we speak about other things? What happened in this series, and what led you guys losing ultimately?
Yeah, again, I don't want to make excuses, and it seems like every year it's the same thing with this guy, and it's injuries. But he looked terrible. He was terrible in Game 7. He was, in Game 6 down the stretch. The best player on the court was Tatum, and he won the game for them. He needs to. His body language is a big thing too. Like, people always talk about it. He's like moping around, and he doesn't look engaged. And I think that over time, if you keep going into the playoffs and you keep getting injured and you keep just same exact thing over and over again, it's frustrating. And out of the gate of Game 7, it just looked like, they had no energy. Embiid had none. He was gassed. He was tired. He was hurt. And it's bad. He had 11 days of no basketball, no activities before the Boston series. Missed Game 1, and he had, nothing. He couldn't play because of his torn ligament in his knee. So I think that had a lot to do with it, but it's every year with this guy. Every single year, he's just getting hurt, and then in the playoffs, it just rears its ugly head, and he just looks bad.
Okay,
So He needs to be better. I mean, he needs to be better in the playoffs, but the freaking guy can't have one playoff healthy. I mean, he hasn't been healthy in the playoffs since Boston when we got swept in the 2015 or 16, whatever it was.
Okay. Well, it's funny, man. I mean, it's unfortunately you guys couldn't make it to where I was hoping that you guys made it, so we can play
Yeah,
and beat
because you would have
y'all.
smoked you
No,
guys.
so we can play and beat y'all in the playoffs again, like how we did last year.
Yeah,
So,
again, when
yeah,
the
another.
mask with the mask and Harden's hamstring, we're a
Yeah,
cursed franchise.
yeah. It's excuse after excuse with you, bro. I mean, it's never not an excuse when it comes to Philadelphia and the Sixers.
Injuries aren't an excuse. They're just it just sucks that they're just happened to happen to us. It happens. It you guys were making the excuse with Butler and his ankle. People were like, "Oh, look, look how different he looked." Is that an excuse? No. Jimmy Butler looked like the best player in the world against Milwaukee. He messes up his ankle, and look, he doesn't look like he looked nothing like he did in the Milwaukee series.
Okay, that's fair. I'll give you that. I mean, so you told us what's next with Philly. You spoke on the trade. You spoke on Embiid. You spoke on Maxi and all of that. My last thing I want you to answer real quick. Talk about the MVP that he just won and the controversy and the beliefs, or which used to be an argument. I don't know if it's still an argument to most people, but Embiid versus Jokic. Why do you think Embiid, if you still think that way, is better than Jokic?
Listen,
And do you think he deserved MVP?
yes, he definitely he deserves an MVP. If it wasn't this year, it was the year before. Okay, it sucks that these two guys are in this. That doesn't suck. It's great because it's great that we see both two great players battling each other and playing each other for MVP, and they both want to win it as much as Jokic and his fans. Oh, he doesn't care. He doesn't care. He already won two. It would have been. Everybody knows that you want to win, and Giannis wants to win. Giannis is in the conversation too. I mean, he's been argued the best player in the league the past few years, and Embiid and Jokic. Now, again, they both have rings, and I said this after last year. I said Steph Curry is the best player in the league. He went out there, he won. He's the champion. He's got every right to be the best player in the league. Jokic put together, and when we were arguing this, I argued before the season that going into it, Embiid's going to be the best player in the league. He's going to win MVP, all that stuff. And he did, and I was right. People say, oh, voter fatigue and all that other stuff. They said the same thing when Giannis won his two MVPs. Oh, they gave it to Jokic because they didn't want to give it to Giannis again. So it happens to a lot of players. And whether you believe it or not, that's fine. If you think it was voter fatigue, if you think that, and I hate that stupid, people brought race into it, and it's whatever. People got to make their own agendas, and it's stupid. It's about basketball. But Jokic put on a performance in this playoffs that we haven't seen in a long time. I mean, he's up there with LeBron and Jordan and all them guys and Kawhi. Like, his playoff run was amazing. He didn't play a lot of great teams, but it was amazing. And he put on a performance of a lifetime. He won. He won the more important MVP, and it was the Finals MVP. He won. He hoisted a trophy, and he took a team with not a lot of. And people, say it all the time, like, oh, no all-stars. Okay, yeah, Jamal Murray was fantastic. He was great. He was amazing. So he has a lot to do with it too. But I have to give respect when respect is due. I can't go and argue anymore that Embiid is better than him. He won a championship. He's a champion. I have nothing. Now I have nothing. Now I have no leg to stand on when I argue it. Now I'm not gonna, I'm gonna mess around and still troll him and say he's the best in the league right now. But if you're having a real conversation, it's right now, and I'm saying this for everybody to hear. Jokic is the best in the world because he won a championship. If he didn't win a championship, I'd give it to Embiid. But he did. And that's the best thing you can do. And that's all anybody asked for, fans, players, coaches, everybody. And I said it after Steph won. If somebody argued with me about Steph after he won a championship, I was like, yeah, you got it. He's a champion. He won. He's got the bragging rights. And the Denver Nuggets have the bragging rights. They won. So if he didn't win, I'd argue it. But him winning a championship, him putting on the performance he did, him being able to, hoist that trophy, he's the best, and he did it, and I can't argue it. But that doesn't take away from Embiid's regular season award. He was dominant this year. There hasn't been a center since Moses Malone to average 30 points in an NBA season, 1981. He put on performance after performance this year that were remarkable, and he's got so many memorable moments this year. But, and I have to put the but in because everyone else does, it was all in the regular season. And when it comes down to playoffs and he doesn't show up or he gets injured, there's nothing you can do. You don't have a leg to stand on. And Jokic put on a hell of a year. If it was he put on a performance this year that is remarkable, and his stats are remarkable, and he fills the stat sheet. But he translated. He got even better when the playoffs came along, and he took his team to the finals, and it was easy. I mean, they killed everybody. It was Phoenix. What, 2 games maybe? They smoked the Lakers. Minnesota won a game. You guys, you put up a good fight, but it just wasn't a match for Jokic, and he's the best in the league going into this season.
I agree with most things that you said. I'm gonna circle back to the beginning. Harden, and I want to do a little deeper dive into it really quickly. So as I was saying, you don't think the James Harden wanting out of Phoenix thing is a little more deeper as far as the contract and relationship with Daryl Morey and things like that? Because you said, like, I feel like he wants to be the guy. I don't think it's a situation to where at his age and that stage of his career, he's more so focused on wanting to be the guy on a team like how he was in Houston, and some may say how he was in Brooklyn. I don't think at this stage of his career he's looking to be in a situation like that. I actually think him going to LA and playing alongside Russ, where he doesn't have to be on the ball 24/7, or playing alongside Kawhi and Paul George and getting those guys in their spots. And we all seen like him and Russ play together about 4 years ago, or however long it was. However long ago it was. I think that him in LA actually sounds good. It looks good, and it can be a special group.
So after in their exit meetings, apparently he was pissed about his role to Doc Rivers.
Okay. Yeah. Right. As far as I thought that was more so as far as the situations and the positions that Doc was putting him in, how he was utilized.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't know. Okay, so he's gonna play off ball in LA. What the hell is Harden gonna do off ball? He don't move. When he's off the ball and here, he doesn't move. He doesn't cut. He doesn't set off ball screen. He doesn't have off ball screen set for him. He don't move. And okay, him and Russ played.
But you're saying, all the things that you're saying that he doesn't do off ball, we've seen Russ do off ball in their time together in Houston, though.
Listen, they were good. Is Russ the same?
Yeah.
Is Harden the same? They're not as good as they were in Houston. Yeah. And they're the third and fourth guys. I don't even understand how that starting lineup is going to work. Harden, Russ, Paul George, Kawhi, and Zubac. That's good. That's spacing with Russ in here. Like what? Russ gonna play off ball?
Well, you'll have spacing. What do you mean by spacing? You'll have spacing. Well,
Russ can't shoot a lick.
Zubac and Russ that can't shoot in that starting five.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. I don't like it. And again, yeah, I don't want to. I hope everybody is healthy in the NBA and nobody could get hurt. But it's just not the way it is. Kawhi, the guy, it's same shit with Embiid. At least Embiid's playing, but Kawhi can't play in the playoffs either.
Let me ask you something. You know how they just, and obviously we can't control injuries, right? And you know how they just played LA in the second round, or the first round, I'm sorry. First round, I think. Whatever round it was, I can't really remember. You know how they just played LA and Kawhi got hurt?
Yeah.
And it was just rough. And Paul George wasn't even there already. Say Kawhi or Paul George goes down, but you add Harden to that team. Do you think they could have probably played Phoenix way better because they was in almost every game for the most part against Phoenix? Do you think if Harden is there alongside of Russ, and maybe one of those two guys as far as PG or Kawhi or just Harden and Russ, how do you think that?
Yeah, I think that they'd be better. I think they'd play better. I think that obviously adding if Kawhi goes down and you have Harden on the team, I think that they would have had a better chance. Would they have won? I don't know. The way that Durant or Booker was playing and Durant, but they would have definitely had a better shot. I mean, you saw our best guy go down and Harden step up and won us a game. So, I mean, Yeah, yes, that could happen. But I mean, I don't know. Apparently, their relationship is fractured,
Right.
Maury and Harden. So it doesn't look good. Like people are like hoping. Like I see people on Twitter like, "Oh, he'll be back." I don't see it. I don't see him coming back. I don't see him playing on a 1 year deal. Um, so I mean, like I said, the Sixers have problems with that. So until they figure it out, you know, I don't know. You're going to go into the season and everyone makes jokes about him gaining weight going into the season where he doesn't want to be there. I think that's a little bit, ridiculous. But I don't want him to cause problems. I mean, Embiid wants him back. Embiid was pretty outspoken about it. He on Twitter, he did that interview, I think, with Ramona Shelburne, trying to say how he wants him back. Embiid just got married a couple weeks ago. Harden wasn't at the wedding. I don't know if that you could look into that as much. I mean, I don't know. Everybody else was there. Harden and PJ weren't there.
Right.
So I think PJ Tucker would be in the deal, by the way, if that happens. It would probably be Tucker and Harden going to LA.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just so much firepower on one team. And it's just like, I don't know, him and Russ together again, kind of like Russ is like a shell of himself, and Harden's still good, but not as good. Kawhi, hopefully comes back healthy. Paul George is a good player. That's about it, though.
Yeah.
Paul George, he's no great player. He's good. I don't know. I don't see it working over there. And the West is you got Beal and Booker and Durant. You got the Nuggets, coming off of a championship, and you got the Lakers. If they're healthy, they're a force too. So I don't know. The LA keeps trying to get all these good players together and just add, like, they just think that talent and talent and talent. Let's just keep gaining these players. It's because Steve Ballmer has an unlimited amount of money. It hasn't worked over there
No,
since
fair.
Doc Rivers and Chris Paul and Blake Griffin.
I agree with everything that you just said. For the most part, I do think that I would like to see that pairing of those four guys, but I do think I want to see how they'll put it all together. And even if they do team up, it's still not guaranteed the way the West is shaped out, like you just said, that they can even get out of the second round, or better yet, make the Western Conference Finals. But man, process. I do thank you for coming on. You've been through a lot, especially as a Sixers fan. You're losing the second round again. Your team losing the Super Bowl.
Word.
Yeah, right there. Y'all losing the Super Bowl. The Phillies losing the World Series. So you've been through a lot. I mean, Ben Simmons, you signed Al Horford, you trade us Jimmy Butler. I don't know what for the people one more time. What's next for the Philadelphia 76ers one more time? You said if you trade Harden and you take the package from LA, you have to look at the avenue of trading Joel Embiid, correct?
Well, I think that, again, I don't want to trade him at all. I don't want to trade him. But if that's the only package you have, and you're forced to do that, you've seen Morey wait it out. Maybe Morey says, no, I'm not doing that. I'll wait until the deadline. Somebody's going to need Harden. And Harden won't play at all for the Sixers, and he'll sit out till the deadline. That's going to be like the worst case scenario. I don't think that's going to happen. But my whole thing saying the Embiid thing, you have to look at it like Man is a good young player. You have Maxey, he's a good young player. Paul Reed could be a good young player. He's solid, And you would have to then look at building around Maxey and building around Man and whatever you can get for the trade package for Embiid in 2 years. Say if it doesn't work, if and the only way you trade Embiid is if he asks for out, or you're really like, this isn't working. We can't get out the second round, and we're going to trade you now because we want you to win, and we can't win with you. So we're going to get something in return for you. So you have to just, I don't want that to happen. I don't think it's going to happen, but you have to be, as a GM, you have to be 10 steps ahead, and you have to look at the future. Like, I don't want to trade a guy when his value is nothing. Because if you win with Embiid, the process was a success. If you lose and then you get nothing for him, it's a complete failure. Like one of the biggest failures in sports. We had to deal with losing for 10 years on purpose. Literally, the owner or the GM said, listen, this is what we're going to do. We're going to suck. We're going to get as many picks, as many assets as we can, and then we'll be good. Okay, we're good, but we're not good enough. We can't get out the second round. Like, that's a problem. So that's what I'm saying. If you want to look at to get Man and you have Maxey, those are going to have to be your building blocks for the future, and that future doesn't have Embiid in
You
it.
think Terrence Mann is like he? Because I noticed you said build around. I remember earlier you said build around Man and Maxey. You think that's something that you can look at and say, oh hey, we have these two guys. If we start there, we can get our way toward the championship.
You're going to have to find. It's similar to like. I don't know if they would suck enough to get. Yeah, they wouldn't be good. Like if we got rid of Embiid and that was our team, we'd be a lottery team. So those would be a building piece, but you're going to have to go out and get, I mean, Wemby's 1 in a million, but I'm saying you get like somebody high up in a draft pick, and that's going to be your guy. But you already have a foundation with Maxey and Man. I don't think that Man is better than Maxey, but I think they're close. I think he's right up there with him. I think Maxey can be. I think Tyrese Maxey can be a star in this league. So I do think that you can build around him, Man, but you're going to then have to get a guy to be your superstar. But again, it just has to be younger. So like kind of like what like OKC's doing. OKC got SGA is better than Maxey. Could Maxey become that one day? I hope so. I don't know if he's going to be as good as him because he doesn't have that playmaking ability. But SGA wasn't as good as Maxey as a rookie and when he was younger. SGA bloomed into this superstar, over the years. I don't think that Maxey is going to be him because they don't play alike. But Maxey could become a star, but you're going to need to get another superstar with him. But so that's what I'm saying. If you're kind of like, all right, we got to get Embiid's got to go. Those two are going to be your building blocks, but you're going to have to get a star with him. Like Orlando. Orlando's a good example. They have some good guards, but Paolo is their guy.
Okay. I can't see a world where
look at the process.
I'm not saying I'm following.
No, the process we sucked. Right. It was the plan was we sucked with Man and Maxey. We wouldn't be good, but you have guys. Now you just need another piece, whether it's through the draft or you get a really good free agent. Money talks. I mean, if you could somehow, and Philly is it's a top 5 market in the NBA. So if you could go out and sign a big free agent, and then if you trade Embiid, you'll get pieces back for him. Then that's going to be your foundation. Whatever you get back for Embiid, Man, Maxey, and then a free agent. But again, that's the worst case scenario. I don't want to trade Embiid. I'm just saying you have to look for that in the future because if you can't win with this guy in the next 2 years, and I'm not even saying like a championship, if you don't get out the second round again, like what's next? That's then really what's like that's what you're asking me. What would you do?
Nah, I mean one, I'll be disappointed with having to, and we get put in situations where a player wants to go to a particular team, and you're almost like you're forced to deal with that team and that team only. Similar to the Blazers and Heat situation, and the Blazers are playing hardball as they should, because when you have a guy like Anthony and you have Shaden and you have Simons, you don't really see a room to where you can get this young prospect credit. 6th man of the year, back-to-back years, averaging 25 and 4. Can shoot from the outside, one of the best rebounding guards in the NBA, and potentially could be one day a 50-40-90 guy. That's Tyler Hero. So there's no real avenue to add a guy like that to your roster. I get it. You know what I'm saying? I understand why it's taking so long. When you look at the Clippers, they don't have a polarizing young asset that I'd be excited or ecstatic to get to put alongside Maxey and say, okay, this guy and Maxey can blossom to something to a year or two, and Joel Embiid will continue to be Embiid, and we can sign another player, we can trade for another guy, and then we'll be that team to win a championship. I don't see that LA is in a situation like that. So,
but the problem is he's forcing us.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately,
I'm forced, so I got to take what he's giving. That's what's wrong with the NBA.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say that.
You're on the good end. You're on the good side of it right now.
Right.
You were going to get Dame for peanuts. I mean, okay, yeah, Hero is a good player, but other than that, you don't have to give up anything.
Well, we're trading a lot of picks too. It'll be a lot of
picks, but Damian Lillard top
Yeah.
3 point guard in the NBA. Now I'm forced to trade him, and the best guy they got is man, and they don't even want to give him up.
Right. Right. So that's
So
why I'm
like,
like, it's an unfortunate situation.
so what
So
do? What do you hold out? You just be like, okay, I'm just gonna hold on. We're
uh,
gonna waste another season.
it's
Suck.
it's it's he's James Harden outside looking at. He seems like he's stubborn. He seems like once I want my way, it gotta be my way and my way. You know, he's not. He doesn't really seem like a guy that's willing to talk it out or things like that. Like I wish he can run it back for another year with you guys. To be honest, I think that's the best case scenario for him and his career. And if you want to go to LA, go to LA in the off season. You probably not going to get the money that you may be seeking. You know, so I get that. He wants a contract, he wants his money, and he wants his main big last payday. He's not a Russell Westbrook right now. No shit, no shot to Russell Westbrook. Westbrook said, "F the money. I'm gonna play for this 3 or 4 million. I'm gonna come back." You know, shout out to Russ for that. But Harden is not doing that. He wants 20 M plus. You know, so that's what's gonna make this situation maybe even 30 M plus. That's gonna make the situation a little interesting. Now, as far as if I do ultimately trade him to LA, and I still haven't beaten Maxi, I think Maxi can jump to 22, 23. I think he probably did 21 last year.
20. He was at 20.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
20.
got 20. I think he can do 22, 23. That's another guy that can score the ball. If Tobias is still there, I know Tobias can give me 17 to 19 points. But as far as the offseason,
Good though. That's not good.
But the offseason, you guys,
again.
the offseason, right? Because that's the offseason. You got look. You guys added Pat Bev, Mo Bamba, re-signed. Well, Max Paul Reed, re-signed Montrez, who's not out for the season. Lost McDaniels,
terrible.
lost Melton, and you guys just been. I don't know. It just you guys are just. It's just there. Nothing special about the Sixers, if you ask me.
No, not now. But because we planned, our biggest goal was to just re-sign Harden for a couple of years. He wanted a 4-year deal, 200 million. I don't know what he's on. He's crazy. So, I mean, you know, there's nothing else to do. I mean, they're not trading Tobias as much as people want to. They're not trading him. So, right now, it's not looking good. We gotta either get something good for Harden and maybe flip the Levine thing, or you got to punt this season and hope to get a big free agent next year.
Well, listen, y'all heard it here from Mr. Philly himself. Philly sports through, Philly sports all the way in, all the way out. Process, I appreciate you coming on episode 91. If you made it this far, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the Facts and Stats podcast. Also give Process a follow. You can check him out on Twitter. You can tell him your @name. You can tell him anything you want to say right now to close this episode out, bro.
I think it's the Process Protector.
Yeah, the Process Protector on Twitter.
Make sure you follow Facts and Stats. The best spaces, playbacks, YouTube on the app for sure.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate the support, bro. Thank you so much for coming on.
Of course. Thank you.